I'm going to talk a little bit about, well, my talk's going to be 5 steps from podcasting to hosting your own online live event. So just a little bit about me, first of all. So I'm actually head of inbound for Calibre. That's calibri.com, and also founder and host of digitalmarketingradio.com. So that's my background. But in terms of what I'm going to be talking about today, so it's about why should SEOs, it's about podcasting to online events. But the first question I want to ask is, why should SEOs know about podcasting and online events? Because everyone that you've had on so far, Alex, has been talking about SEO or technical type stuff as well, as well as general digital marketing stuff. And this maybe seems a little bit more fluffy than traditional SEO. But what I just want to tie everything together, if I can, and say that I reckon that SEOs should know a lot about this because SEO has moved on so much over the last few years. Back 10 years ago or so, you could easily do things like, of course, publishing 400-word articles and doing horrible things like spinning and then building any old links you want to it. But SEO is so much more than that nowadays. And it's also so much more about just conducting SEO on your own website as well. So what is it about? Well, to me, it's also about things like optimizing for YouTube. Because YouTube's, of course, the second biggest search engine in the world, as many people say at the moment. So I've got a video up there. If you search for digital marketing, it's had about 130,000 views, and it's constantly on the first page of YouTube. And also, if you search the podcast app on iTunes, again, digital marketing radio is quite near the top of there, and can you imagine how difficult it actually would be to optimize Google and get onto the first page of Google for digital marketing? I know maybe a couple of people have done that, maybe a couple of agencies have done that, but generally that is really, really difficult to do. So there are other SEO type opportunities out there. There are other ways of delivering content, and so that's why I've moved on to audio content and video content and producing online events as a way of publishing content and also approaching SEO as well. So I'm going to be talking about the 5 steps from podcasting to hosting your own online live event. So starting off with pre-recorded audio. So what I'm suggesting here is that to actually record about 10 to 20 episodes just on audio at the moment for the first 10 to 20 episodes. Step 2, as live audio, so then integrating things into that, so your intros and outros are all part of the same audio. Step 3, pre-recorded video. Step 4, live video. And then step 5, host your own on live events. So let's go into exactly what those steps are and how I recommend getting started. So step 1, pre-recorded audio. So I reckon you should start with a pre-recorded audio podcast. So get comfortable with your own voice, first of all, and recording hopefully reasonable quality audio. So what do I recommend for that? Well, here are some basic things just to get started. There are a couple of microphones there that are dynamic microphones, which means that there's a very close point to the microphone that is the ideal point that you should be speaking at. So you should be speaking at between 3 and 6 inches away from the microphone. You should also use a microphone windshield. Now, these 2 microphones that I've recommended here come in roughly at the £50 mark, so not too expensive at all. Samsung Q2U and the ATR2100, depending on whether you're in the States or the UK or what microphone you can get a hold of there. Always use a microphone windshield as well, or windscreen, however you want to call it, and that will prevent popping noises on your microphone. And then also use a table folding spring stand as well, because that'll get the microphone right next to your mouth. The kind of little stands that you get with microphones generally are pretty poor. And to get started, once you've got your equipment, decide on a single episode topic with a friend or colleague, and then just record 2 episodes. Don't even think about things like naming a show or anything tactical at all like that. All you're looking to do at this stage is just have a decent conversation with a friend over Skype and record it. Nothing more than that at all, just deciding a topic and start talking away. It's a great first way to get started with things. This is a great bit of software to actually use, VoIP call recording, and that works with Skype. So both are free. VoIP call recording is free as well. There's a paid version, but the free version will actually be fine for you getting started there. And use this bit of software here as well called Audacity. Now, Audacity will let you edit your audio. So you're recording your audio using VoIP call recording and Skype, and then after you've got your recording, which will be in MP3 format, then you're going to save that using Audacity and actually upload it or import it into Audacity there. So just briefly going through Audacity here, just to get you comfortable with getting started. Don't worry about getting things absolutely exact here and all the different things going on in this bit of software. The key thing is just get a reasonable bit of audio out there, get it published, and get comfortable with doing that there. So you import your audio there as well. Once you've imported it, the two things that you want to do with it that you can hear in this, see on the screen here is cutting it and then compressing it. So cutting it is just like cutting the front and the end of the bit of audio just before your proper intro. So that's the key things that you want to do with it. Just highlight it and press File Cut to be able to do that there. And moving on to the next stage in the process, which is the compressor there. So it's Effect and then Compressor. And then when you do that, you also want to select the button there that says Compress to Peaks. And if you do that, it'll make it nice and loud, a decent volume. There's nothing worse than a podcast being too soft and turning up your iPhone or whatever device you're listening to it on and not being able to hear everything correctly. So get it to a decent volume there, and you can do that by compressing the audio. And once you do that, all you do is you file, export the audio, and you save it as an MP3. So you're exporting it as an MP3. So you have your final file version there, which is loud enough. You've cropped the start and the end of the tracks there, so you're starting and ending at the right point there. The only other three things that you need to actually get your podcast, which it will be published, is first of all hosting. Now I use and recommend Libsyn for audio hosting. So why don't you want to use a regular website host? Well, generally, most hosting plans are set up for optimizing web views. And of course, web pages are maybe only about 100K or 1000K or something like that in size. So it's not a massive file that people are accessing all at once. A podcast was probably something like 50 meg in size. So because of that, it's going to be a different type of hosting that is going to be able to deliver those files. If you have a popular podcast and you expect your regular web hosts to be able to deliver a lot of requests for big files all at once, that's probably going to take your website down. So you don't want that to be happening. So use a specialist audio host. Libsyn starts at about $12 a month. The other thing that you'll need is an RSS feed associated with your podcast. So what that does is it provides a way of people subscribing to your podcast. So I use a plugin on WordPress called PowerPress, and it's fairly easy to use. So just install that. It's free. That will give you a podcast specific RSS feed. So when you publish an episode and get the RSS, get the MP3 file associated with that, then it's no problem at all. You've got your RSS feed. Your MP3 files are associated with your episodes as soon as they're published, and then bang, that's you got your podcast. The only other thing left is to submit it to iTunes and other podcast directories. So that's all you need to do to get an audio podcast up and running. It's not difficult, but it is challenging to get to a reasonable quality and get comfortable with the way you're doing things. So that's why I suggest you start off with an audio podcast, and then when you start to appear on video shows, then you're a bit more comfortable with the sound of your own voice with audio there as well. Step 2 is record an as live audio show. So what do I mean by that? Well, generally, when you move on with your podcast, you'll start to have things like intros and outros and perhaps even bumper noises or different sections within it. So I love an app called Boss Jock Studio. And if you listen to this, digitalmarketingradio.com, that's me pressing Boss Jock just now and actually getting some audio into what you're hearing just now. And it's so easy to use. All you do is you upload audio to your Dropbox, and then from Dropbox to Boss Jock Studio, and then it saves on your iPad or whatever device you're actually using Boss Jock on. So it's a lovely device. So I use that so I can record my podcasts as live and have my intros and outros and any other sound effects in there as well. You'll perhaps want to up the game when it comes to recording audio as well. And I love this Zoom H5 digital audio recorder. So I always record audio externally from your computer, from my computer, because if you do that, you're less likely to get any humming noises that you can get with computers. Plus, if the worst case scenario happened and your computer crashed, at least you've got the audio recording and you can carry on from where you're left there. A couple of other things that I'd perhaps recommend considering at this stage: upgrading your microphone. So the microphone that I'm using at the moment is the Electro Voice RE20. I really like it. It's the kind of microphone that a lot of radio stations use. And I've got that goes directly into the Soundcraft Signature mixer. So that's the one that you see up there as well. I like the sound that you get out of that mixer as well. And what I can do is I can take the audio from my iPad, from Boss Jock, directly into the mixer, as well as my microphone, and mix everything together. And then I can take the final feed from there into my H5, and also, of course, into Google Hangouts, what you're hearing there as well. So that's step 2, recording as live. So remember, you're still not recording it with an audience. You're recording it just over Skype again. So if you make mistakes, no big deal. You can edit it afterwards. But this will get you comfortable with recording a podcast episode as oneer. So being comfortable with making the odd mistake and recovering, and just being a little bit more confident with what you do. So I think that's a great second step there. But step number 3 is to start a pre-recorded video show using Google Hangouts. Yes, Google Hangouts still exists, as of course we're using here on Digital Olympus. There was an announcement a couple of months ago that Google Hangouts was going away, but that was a lot of blogs overreacting a little bit. And of course, Google Hangouts is still there to be used, but it's now in YouTube rather than actually associated with Google+. So where do you find that? Well, it's a little bit tough to find. So all you do is you go into YouTube and you click on the live streaming option there. You click on events on the left-hand side. And then after that, you can create your own live event, the top right-hand side. Then after you do that, this is the important part. Make sure you select unlisted and then go live. So that way, what you can do is you can actually easily record a video session with someone, but you're not going to have anyone watching at all. So if you muck it up, no problem. Or if you do want to happen to edit the video, then you can do that as well. I would recommend that you probably stay clear of editing video, because it can take a lot of time to do that. So if you completely muck up, you might want to start again. But it's a great way of actually saving your video, because even though it's unlisted, it'll get saved to YouTube. And then once it's rendered and is available on YouTube, which will be about 20 minutes after the Hangout has finished, you can actually download the MP4 from there. Now, if you wanted, you could create a video podcast from that. It's probably not worthwhile doing that, but you can edit the video a little bit. I use a bit of software called Wondershare Filmora for editing video, but be careful about losing too much time doing that. So I wouldn't do that unless absolutely necessary. Now, the last stage that I haven't mentioned yet is sharing the unlisted Hangout with a guest that you want to bring on. And this is a great tip, actually, I picked up from someone. And so once the Hangout's created, you can actually see the URL. And at the very top, if you actually copy and paste everything up to the question mark. Now, after the question mark, it's got different parameters after it. It's not important. So everything up to the question mark, copy it and paste it and email it to whoever you want to participate with you, and they'll easily join using that way. It can be a little bit complicated to invite guests other ways, so that's a quick and easy way to actually ask people to join a Hangout. So that was the most of step 3. But what else do you need if you want to enhance the game? So I'd still recommend using your Zoom H5, but then you can introduce things like your soft-top video lighting. So it's great to have lighting either side of you and ideally on top of you, because that will make you look a little bit more 3D, actually, if you have lighting on top of you and either side of you, just to make sure that people see you. And you can look quite dull if you don't have decent lighting in front of you. So it's worthwhile investing £50 to £100 in a lighting kit as well if you're going to be appearing in these kind of shows. And lastly, in terms of pieces of equipment, the Logitech C920 HD webcam is a brilliant webcam. Only costs about £50, same amount in dollars. You can still order that just now. So if you haven't got a decent webcam, just order that one and you won't regret it at all. And in terms of software, I actually use a bit of software called Zencastr. What Zencastr does is it lets me record the person that I'm interviewing, but at their end. So it actually acts in their computer browser. All they have to do is give permission to record their microphone. So it's so easy to get the audio from their end. And then after the recording's finished, it automatically uploads to your Dropbox, and then you can get the audio from there. So if you're interviewing someone over Skype or Google Hangouts, quite often you might have found that the internet connection isn't great and it drops out a little bit. But if you're recording the person you're interviewing's audio at their end directly, then that can give you a much better experience for your end user who's going to listen to your podcast, and they'll certainly thank you for it. If you're going to do that, what you'll need to do in your Zoom H5 recorder is to record you and the person you're interviewing on separate tracks. And then if you do that, then if you get your audio from their end, it's easy enough to replace the audio tracks in your editing bit of software, which is either Audacity, or you could actually use Adobe Audition if you want to move up in terms of quality in audio editing. But let's move on to step 4, which is a live video show. So Facebook Live has happened reasonably recently, but I'm starting to embrace it. I really like Facebook Live, but it hasn't got natively in it at the moment the capabilities to do a lot. You can't do a lot of interviewing and involving other people as part of your video. And vMix is the software that I use to do that. So I bring other people into the recording using vMix. vMix is a brilliant bit of software that shows you what it looks like. So it's quite complicated initially, but actually the effect that you get is really good. So that's a screenshot of a recent podcast that I recorded. So that's me bringing someone in from a Google Hangout, then with an overlay there as well of my name and logo there as well. So it works really effectively, and I haven't had any issues with it not working correctly. So if you're going Facebook Live, vMix is a great way to create an interview with someone. And then finally, step 5, hosting your own online live event. So again, you can use Google Hangouts and landing page software like OptimizePress, or you can use specialist webinar software like Webinar Jam or Easy Webinar, something like that. But for me, last year it was Blab. And unfortunately, Blab doesn't exist anymore. So I did a big Christmas special last year in Blab, and that had about 55 guests or something like that on it. And I was really happy with that and the way that Blab worked. But you have to move on and embrace change. And this year it's Facebook Live. So that's a screenshot of the video that I took last year from Blab. So Blab, let me easily have 4 people on the same screen. I could kick people off, and then other people would join. So it was a really, really nice way of doing it. But there's no point in telling you too much about it because, of course, it doesn't exist anymore. So what I'm doing nowadays is I'm setting up an event page on Facebook, and then as a result of that, I'm obviously going to be actually hosting a live Facebook special. So hopefully that's going to be great. And I'm going to tell you about something as a world first here. As well as doing the live event, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be turning it into a book as well, because I think it's so important to try and integrate different marketing activities, be it SEO, different forms of content marketing, but offline marketing as well. So that's a bit of an experiment. I'm going to be launching that as part of the live special that I do on Thursday of this week. So we'll see how that goes. I will let you know how it goes. But hopefully that made a bit of sense there in terms of how you would structure moving from just a pre-recorded audio podcast right through to hosting your own live event, because I generally find that hosting your own live event online is a lot to do. And if you went straight to doing that, then it's a bit of a challenge. There's so many moving parts to it, and you're not necessarily going to get everything right. And going through this 5-step process from 1 pre-recorded audio, 2 as live audio, 3 pre-recorded video, 4 live video, 5 host your own online event, and try and do something like 20 episodes for each step in the process. So that way you're getting comfortable with it, you're learning as you go along, but you're not trying to do too much at the same time. So if you fancy doing that, hopefully that's tempted you to follow that process and give it a go. So I'm David Bain, head of Inbound at Calibre, and also founder and host of Digital Marketing Radio. And I will zoom out here and say hello face to face again. And if you have any questions at all, I'd be more than happy to take them. So I'm not sure if someone from Digital Olympus is going to jump in here. I'm just having a quick look at Twitter to see if... okay, there's Alex there. How you doing?
Yeah, very good. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for...
You're too busy having a party and not listening to a word I was saying.
Yeah, my apologies. You can hear there. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry about that. So
that's okay, Alex. I was just wondering if there's any questions.
Yeah, we can clean a sound. So, David, actually, I have a really quick question. So, as far as you're going to leave us, so tell me, please, how long does it take normally? So you're going to start your own podcast, and then you're just, getting some kind of tangible results, I would say. So how long does it take? Because I understand that it's like, a long-term journey, definitely. So that's like, not something that you just, establish today and then tomorrow you're getting some results.
Yeah, so, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's, I guess it depends on how you define results. I mean, nowadays I get thousands of downloads per week. But obviously it's taken me 2 years or so to get to that kind of stage. I launched Digital Marketing Radio in August 2014, and I had a bit of a list, so I told them about that, and some people were interested in checking it out to begin with, and that probably resulted in about 50 regular listeners or something like that when I launched. When you launch it to iTunes, then iTunes will give it a little bit of a boost as well, and people will start discovering it there as well. So short answer is you can maybe start with about 50 listeners or something like that. You have to keep up the consistency on a weekly basis, and don't expect a lot of miracles for the first year or so. You're getting better and more comfortable with what you're doing. You're finding your voice. Hopefully you'll start to reach 1,000 downloads per week after a year, and you know, keep on growing it from there. I guess those are the kind of objectives that are reasonable to have. But it completely depends on your industry and how, you know, what's right for you. Because if you work in an industry that's is small and you're quite niche and you're just trying to talk to a small audience, perhaps, you know, having 50 regular listeners is wonderful for you. So it depends.